31st August 2017 is the last day to link your PAN card with your Aadhaar card. The government has ruled out any extension to this deadline.
The Income Tax Department has specifically mentioned that there will be no extension of deadline after the 31st of August for the linking of your PAN card with your Aadhaar card.
The Aadhaar case is pending in the Supreme Court and will be listed after the outcome of the landmark right to privacy judgment becomes clear.
Though there is already an interim order of the court which said that you should not be making it compulsory yet. So in my view, the government should not be forcing people at this stage until the matter of Aadhaar etc. is properly heard and decided by the court.
Concerns over Aadhaar leaks are yet to be addressed by the government, as citizens claim that granting a mandatory status to Aadhaar is unfair.
हमारे प्राइवेसी पर ये टेम्परिंग है।
बिल्कुल नहीं होना चाहिए। राइट टू प्राइवेसी अपनी सारी की सारी खत्म हो जाएगी तो उसमें होना ही नहीं चाहिए।
I think by Aadhaar card that person gets identified, his iris, his fingerprints, he has been given a specific number, his address, all those things are already on record.
But the Supreme Court's verdict on privacy does not spell out the end of Aadhaar. The CEO of the Unique Identification Authority of India, Ajay Bhushan Pandey, says Aadhaar can continue to be linked with subsidy schemes since reasonable restrictions for the right to privacy have been laid down by the court. So Mirror now asks, why is the government in such a hurry to make the Aadhaar mandatory? Why can't the government wait for the Aadhaar matter to be conclusively settled by the Supreme Court? Mirror now report.
Good evening, you're watching the Urban Debate on Mirror Now. I'm Faye D'Souza, thank you for joining us. Very interesting conversation. We just had information come out in our morning newspapers that the UADI, or the organization that runs the Aadhaar entire system, has decided that the deadline that we had of the 31st of August to link our Aadhaar and our PAN cards will not be extended. You have to do that linkage before the 31st of August. Now, this largely came up because there were several people who complained that they weren't able to do it, either because the Income Tax Department website wasn't working, it was hanging for most of last month, or because their names didn't match from their Aadhaar card to their PAN cards, or several other similar problems. But we have to ask a bigger question here. Just about a week ago, we were all celebrating the momentous decision that came from our Supreme Court to tell us that privacy is a fundamental right in our country. Now, post that decision, the Supreme Court 5-judge bench is going to refer to that decision in a different argument about whether or not Aadhaar in this manner should be made compulsory to us. Why is it that the government doesn't want to wait until the Supreme Court has given us its decision? Why is it that the government is still pushing to have us link our PAN cards to our Aadhaar cards? Can the government assure us that all of this information is safe? To make matters worse, WikiLeaks has suggested that the CIA has access to our Aadhaar information, and that's worrying. Just wait until the Supreme Court tells you that it's okay. And my basic question, and I know a lot of people at home are asking these questions, we're getting three types of phone calls right now. One, can you please link your bank account with your Aadhaar number? Two, link your phone or your mobile phone to your Aadhaar number. And three, link your PAN card to your Aadhaar number. Given the fact that the matter is sub judice and the Supreme Court is hearing this entire matter, can we respond on these phone calls and say, no, I am not going to do any of these things until after the Supreme Court has given us its decision? Is it okay to do that? Those are my questions this evening, and I also want to know what your questions are. Invol.in is open to you. Type invol.in on the browser of your phone and leave us either a message or a question. It'll pop up on our screen and we'll take those questions on the show. Also, our phone lines are open and my team is standing by to take your phone calls. Joining me on the show this evening, Arvind Gupta, leader of the BJP, Sanjay Jha of the Congress Party. Pawan Duggal is a lawyer and a cyber security expert. Rifat Jawed, founder of Janata reporter, has been kind enough to give us more of his time. Pratap is an advocate and Ritesh Bhatia is a cyber security expert. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the show. My first question is going to go to Pawan Duggal. Pawan Duggal, we know the Supreme Court is still hearing the matter, but somehow the government doesn't want to slow down. Can I turn around and say either to the IT department or my cell phone service provider and to my bank, I'm not going to give you my Aadhaar details until after the Supreme Court tells me to do so?
Well, that's a legitimate and a valid argument that you can give. The question is what happens to you after 31st August? I think it's a bulldozing tactic that's currently being done. There is no need for a tearing hurry for doing what the government is currently doing. Because now you are potentially the first channel that's now talking in terms of the CIA story. That's so big and it's surprising that it's all got down. If the entire database of the Aadhaar is accessible to and is available with CIA, as the WikiLeaks story is suggesting, I think it's a much bigger question that could potentially impact the security, sovereignty and integrity of India and requires immediate investigation rather than a mere self-denial. Now, we know for a sure fact that Aadhaar as an ecosystem is thoroughly unsecure. And please understand, when from 2009 till 2016, there was no law that gave legality to Aadhaar. The Aadhaar Act came across in 2016 March with the presumption that Aadhaar will be voluntary. However, consequently, the law only talked about, shall I say, protecting the central identities data repository. Meanwhile, the government changed course and made it mandatory. Once you made it mandatory, a lot of things started getting connected to Aadhaar. Consequently, a huge ecosystem has developed around Aadhaar, which is completely unsafe. There's no mention about cyber security. No wonder from January 2017 till date, every week we are seeing some big news of Aadhaar leaks being done. The biggest one being the Reliance Jio case, which had more than 100 million Aadhaar card numbers being leaked. So in this kind of a huge ecosystem that we currently are in, which are thoroughly is unsecure, and where cyber security is not even being given lip service, leave aside anything else, I think it will be better for the government not to push people into a river of fire and then say, okay, you first jump in the river of fire and then we will take you out and if possible, try to save you. Now, what benefit will that be if your privacy already stands extinguished? Then we would potentially only be making a mockery of the landmark judgment of the Supreme Court, where your fundamental right to life includes your right to privacy. Now, does that mean, should you be in a position to challenge this particular decision? The answer is a crystal clear yes. This decision of making 31st August 2017 as the last date is typically a classical case of violation of people's fundamental right of privacy, and this can be challenged in a court of competent jurisdiction. But the question is, when there is so much mere strong allegations that are being made, where the UIDAI, being the presiding authority of Aadhaar, is itself making, shall I say, first information reports for breaches of Aadhaar, I think it's time for us to slow down. Let's not push it under the carpet.
Right.
Let's try to identify and try to take this forward.
Arvind Gupta, leader of the BJP, WikiLeaks on Friday tweeted, has the CIA already stolen India's Aadhaar database? What's the response to that? Has the CIA stolen our Aadhaar database?
Let me first start by backing off and giving some clarifications, which I think both as an anchor and the lead story a little misleading. Number one, the 31st August deadline is for ensuring that the 2.8 crore people who have filed an income tax return also put their Aadhaar number into the income tax return. The PAN card was, the deadline was 30th June. 28 crore people in India have PAN cards. They may not be unique. Many people have multiple PAN cards, and therein lies the base of the problem. The crux of the problem lies with the 28 crore people who have multiple PAN cards. About 10 crores of those PAN card holders have also seeded their Aadhaar number into the PAN cards. I want to clear this, that again and again we are saying one thing, the 31st August deadline is to link the PAN card with Aadhaar. No. It is for linking your income tax return that you have already filed by the 5th of August. It was 31st July, it got extended till the 5th of August. That extension, because a lot of people said that our number is still pending and things like that. So for
with
that,
all due respect,
the deadline
Mr.
is now
Arvind Gupta,
31st
if
of
I
August,
link my taxes,
and that is what stands as of today.
But isn't that effectively PAN and Aadhaar linking on my tax returns?
No,
isn't
let me clarify.
Okay.
No. The PAN number, you may not be income tax assessee and still have a PAN number. 28 crore people have a PAN number. Only 2.8 crore file income tax return, madam. So let's be clear on this. The income tax return deadline is 31st August. not PAN card. PAN card deadline was 30th June and that's over. And the government has still not taken a decision on what will be the next steps of people who have not attached it. Will it be, is there an implication because of the right to privacy or a lot of other things? So that decision is separate. I think there's a lot of confusion that the media and other people are creating by saying PAN card very loosely. The 31st August deadline, first of all, is for income tax return. Let's be very clear on that. And the income tax return deadline was 5th of August. Now, making sure you have supplied your PAN card number is 31st. Right. Now, coming to the second point, on the security and the features of Aadhaar and the fact that my very learned panelist, Pawan Duggal ji mentioned on this whole e-KYC, the Aadhaar data going to any other agency or, Geo, he mentioned that. I want to make it very clear. The Aadhaar data does not go when you do a KYC. KYC stands for Know Your Customer. When you do that, your Aadhaar data does not go from X to Geo. Instead of giving a physical paper of verification of your data, your address and date of birth and XYZ, you have now done that electronically, based on a very consent-based
architecture. My question, Arvind Gupta, you're not answering my question. My question is, okay, my question is, let me ask the question again. No, I understand what you're saying. Let me ask the question again. Why is the government in a hurry? Why is the government in a hurry to push this mandatory Aadhaar linkage, whether to PAN card or IT returns? Why can't the government wait until the Supreme Court has given us its judgment?
Well, I just explained. I think you have missed the whole point. I just explained to you the PAN card deadline was 30th of June. It's already over. 10 crore people have already filed that and linked their PAN card with the Aadhaar number. The existing deadline was to be over on 5th of August for income tax return for the 2.8 crore people who have filed income tax. This is a process. And in that, the deadline had been extended on 5th of August till 31st of August. This is not a new deadline or something else. It's an extension of that process.
Is it all right for me, Arvind Gupta, to turn around and tell the Income Tax Department that because the Supreme Court is still hearing that case, I am not going to share my Aadhaar details on my income tax returns if I have not filed them yet?
Well, on the PAN card, the government also has made reasonable restrictions available even in the right to privacy judgment, by the way. The Supreme Court has said that reasonable restrictions, social welfare, use of government resources are all
government resources. And I don't have social welfare. I pay full price for my gas cylinder, full price for petrol, full price for housing.
I want to say that very clearly. Please listen to me. I want to say that. See, the Aadhaar and the right to privacy can coexist. This is my view. And I think in a way the Supreme Court has given enough indications in its judgment that
the Supreme Court gives us that judgment.
I mean that is a separate argument. It's a separate argument, a separate case going on. And when the decision comes out, I think everybody will have to respect that.
Absolutely, including the government of India. Let me now bring in Sanjay Jha of the Congress Party.
The last point you made about that CI.
Sanjay Jha, go ahead. Sanjay Jha.
Yeah, Faye, I just want to make one point. I think it's a very serious discussion that you're having today. And it's important to, put the context right. Remember that this is the government, Mr. Modi's government argued in the Supreme Court that the right to privacy is an elitist concept. They said that people of India, you and me, anyone hearing this program, don't even have the right to their bodies. Mr. K.K. Venugopal or Mr. Mukul Rohtagi, they argued in the courts that the concept of right to privacy is very amorphous, is vague. This is a government which actually, after the Supreme Court, very cleverly did a U-turn, and Ravi Shankar Prasad said, well, we always said that, right to privacy is a fundamental right. That is disingenuous. That is a distortion of reality. This government did not speak for right to privacy. They, in fact, said right to privacy is not a fundamental right. I think it is very important to establish this upfront. Number two, as far as Aadhaar is concerned, and this is the point that we need to debate. As far as Aadhaar is concerned, it has the potential to have Now, 1 minute, I haven't finished. The right to Aadhaar has the potential, Faye, to be an instrument of surveillance infrastructure. And this is the apprehension on which I think there were petitioners who went to the Supreme Court. Now, you have raised a very valid point. Now, I think Arvind is trying to very cleverly dodge the issue by talking about income tax of PAN, but the reality is to file an income tax return, you need a PAN card. The fundamental point is this. Why are you in a hurry when the Aadhaar bench was suspended until this judgment has been given by a 9-judge bench? Now the hearings have begun, let it conclude, and then let the government take a call. We believe at this point of time that the purpose behind the Aadhaar was very simply, it was voluntary, it was not meant to be mandatory. I think Pawan Duggal ji is absolutely right. Secondly, by trying to widen its scope, although Arvind says they are not linked, the truth is there is a potential of linkage. If you, Faye, tomorrow are giving your Aadhaar card for your restaurant bill or for your travel bill or for your bank account or for any other transaction, tomorrow the government has to just use your Aadhaar number in all your transactions to get to know exactly what the details are. So there is a common linkage that can be created, and all these compartments will then become one. Therefore, the risk of profiling, therefore the risk of data security getting leaked, that's a separate issue. It's a huge issue. I think the Jharkhand issue that we debated on your channel, Faye, where over 1 crore of database was out there in the public domain.
Yes.
Did Mr. Modi's government file an FIR? Did somebody get arrested? It's a very complex issue. Why is the government in a hurry?
Right, I want to bring in Ritesh Bhatia and then Rifat Jawed. Ritesh Bhatia, I'm just very concerned about the CIA accessing our entire database. Is that even true? Is that possible?
See, well, up till now, whatever WikiLeaks has said, I mean, Julian Assange, it's always come out to be true. Now, it can be a little exaggerated, the way it has been put up, but we really don't know the real story. But I wouldn't be surprised, as I told you earlier also, that, the way technology is, there is no such technology that cannot be hacked. And we depend so much on the third parties. Even here, what the WikiLeaks is trying to say is that the instruments the hardware that has been provided, they have been affected by a Trojan via an update. So it is quite possible that what they're saying is true, but I cannot confirm it personally as such. But yes, there is a possibility. And looking at the earlier instances also, we can say yes, definitely our Aadhaar is not as secured as it should have been.
Rifat Jawed, why can't the government just wait?
Look, I think, ever since the Supreme Court, sort of gave us the historic verdict, we have detected, that the BJP government at the center has been unable to reconcile with the fact that they have lost the case. Look, I mean, how Ravi Shankar Prasad said that we have always defended the right to privacy, even though he was being untruthful, because he was rightly countered by the former AG Mukul Rohatgi day before yesterday, who said, we must admit, if I was the AG, I would have had absolutely no qualm in saying that we lost the case. To make this argument that we have always defended, but we always said with we respected right to privacy with certain restrictions. Can somebody remind me which fundamental right in Constitution comes without restrictions? So it's a no-brainer. What are you adding there that we defended it, but we defended it to be the fundamental right with the little bit of restriction. You have a right to speech. Can you speak anything? Can you defame somebody? Can you be libelous? No. You have a right to practice, profess and propagate religion. Can you actually then go and hurt other people's religious sentiments? No. So, it was quite an awkward moment to hear that kind of, lame argument being put forward by a law minister, number one. Number two, we are talking about the safety. We carried the story about the CIA on Janata ka reporter, and I think, there is a reason for us to worry. But, without going into the semantics of what WikiLeaks said, there is a genuine doubt about our ability to secure those data. And I'll tell you what, a lot of my friends and family members, they went and they bought Geo connection. And all they had to do was to give their thumb on the machine, and the Geo had all the data about them. Now my question is, how did Reliance get hold of their Aadhaar data? Reliance is not government. You know, and that is happening with other mobile providers as well. So there is when somebody says that they are apprehensive about their personal data being shared, you know, there is a legitimacy to that. You know, coming back to that, Pawanji rightly pointed out, what is the tearing hurry? Why can't you just wait? You know, unless you have a complete disregard, you know, to the Supreme Court. You know, the Supreme Court is going to constitute a smaller bench, which is going to, listen to the argument on whether to, you know, on the linkage of Aadhaar to your fundamental right, to your right to privacy, sorry. You know, let's just wait. You know, the sky is not coming crumbling down.
In fact, I have a question here for Arvind Gupta. Mr. Gupta, my question is to you. The Unique Identification Authority of India, the UIDAI, has deactivated 81 lakh Aadhaar numbers till date. Now, this information comes from the Minister of State and Electronics and IT, Mr. P.P. Chaudhary, who said so last Friday, that 81 lakh Aadhaar numbers have been deactivated. Would you tell us why?
Lot of Aadhaar numbers have found to be inadequate.
How?
Means they are claiming to be linked to, this is my understanding of it from a very, very technical, this is my understanding of it, let me give it from a very, very technical analysis. The way I read it, that 81 lakh Aadhaar numbers who are found to be either linked to multiple accounts or certain mismatches in them, they are the ones who have been deactivated. They have not been cancelled. This is my understanding of that.
No, in fact,
but I have to make 2-3 points on what Mr. Sanjay Jha has said.
Hang on. I know you want. I know you're tempted to respond to the Congress. I give you that opportunity, but I don't fully understand. One second, Mr. Gupta. Before you get to Mr. Jha, I haven't fully understood your answer. So you're telling me 81 lakh Aadhaar numbers were flawed because they had multiple accounts or multiple names. Isn't that the problem we are trying to remove from the PAN card system by linking it to the Aadhaar card system? I don't understand. Isn't the Aadhaar card system meant to be foolproof? Isn't it meant to be a foolproof identification? How did we make 81 lakh mistakes?
Let me explain that to you.
Please.
Let me explain that to you.
Faye, there are 200 school children
what the
who
minister
created
is
a
probably
duplicate
trying to
Aadhaar
say
card
is,
with
and
their
I'm giving a very
fingerprints.
technical analysis.
Mr. Gupta, please continue.
It's a mismatch, not of the Aadhaar, but Aadhaar which is seeded into multiple accounts. That's where there is a duplicacy. Aadhaar is meant to find that, and you put that number on hold so that it is not being gamed. I'll give you an example.
Right?
I'll give you one example.
Yes.
People have used, and that's the reason. Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I explain that this gentleman is interfering again and again? What people have done is, over years, people who have expired, people who have demised, their Aadhaar numbers have not been created as dead. They need to be taken out of the system. A lot of these Aadhaar numbers are still being used by people. A lot of people in the media did not understand the directive that when somebody passes away, their Aadhaar number also needs to be
81 lakh numbers are all deceased.
This is part of that
citizens.
Problem that you are seeing right now, that people have found Aadhaar numbers who are there trying to game the system and seeding it into multiple places. So what the minister has done, or what the UID or the appropriate authorities have done is,
duplicate fakes are in the market.
Misuse
People
of
are
Aadhaar
faking
numbers,
Aadhaar
where there are
numbers.
miscalculations, there are mismatches.
So
there can be a very simple answer to this.
Right.
Recently, it was in the
Can
news
this gentleman not
that there were
interfere and listen to
several...
the answer?
No, let him finish. One second. Aditya, I'm going to come to you immediately after this to bring us the legal point of view, but I want Mr. Gupta to finish his point. So 81 lakh deceased citizens, and these are the Aadhaar cards that are now being...
You have to understand this, that when if people have Aadhaar numbers and, whether they pass away, those Aadhaar numbers have been misused, and to make sure they are not being misused, when algorithmically, system-wise, algorithmically using big data analytics, it finds out those systems, it kind of creates an alert saying that these are the numbers that are being gamed or being duped. So that is those are most of those numbers are there, and that's where the problem lies. So please understand that. Without understanding, let's not understand that you cannot have two Aadhaar numbers tied to the same person. That's not possible in the architecture of Aadhaar.
And Mr. Jha will agree with me because they claim that they were the architects of Aadhaar, that you cannot do that. You just cannot do that. Biometric data of 12 things, 10 fingerprints and 2 irises cannot match to 2 individuals.
No, and not just that, there were several instances where a table, chair, dog and cat were getting Aadhaar numbers. You would have fingerprint, you would have irises, but in the photograph you would have the photo of a chair or a dog or a cat. I suspect this is probably an exercise to weed out such fraudulent data, because mathematically no 2 fingerprints are the same, no 2 irises are the same. Overall, there are going to be some subtractions from the system, but biometrics is like one leap forward in ensuring such things don't happen. However, when we see the larger picture, one has to understand the mandate of the UIDAI Act. A plain reading of the UIDAI Act the Aadhaar Act shows the objective of the Act is to ensure efficient dispersal and access to government services. And Section 3 of the Act says that every citizen shall be entitled to obtain an Aadhaar number. So under Section 3, you have a right to an Aadhaar number, but you cannot be forced to take an Aadhaar number. Now the objective of Aadhaar PAN linkage is a right objective, which is to eliminate fraudulent duplicate PAN numbers. But the government should enact a law. Right to privacy is a part of Article 21, and Article 21 clearly says the right to life and liberty shall not be taken away save by authority of law.
Right.
Now, under the authority of the Aadhaar Act, a citizen is entitled to take Aadhaar numbers, and Aadhaar numbers are to be used for dispersal of government services. So the mandate has to be whether you're taking ration, you're taking kerosene, you're taking some government subsidy, show your Aadhaar, apply for it. But whether to PAN cards are issued under Section 114 of the Income Tax Act. Now, if the Income Tax Act does not provide any option to cancel a PAN number for non-leakage of Aadhaar, I would say let the government bring a law to allow it. Because a trend has been observed that the current government, what it cannot achieve by passing a law, it starts issuing ordinances, circulars, notifications and all these things. Let them go before Parliament, table a proposal, have the act amended. Why can't they go the hard way?
So Aditya Pratap, as an advocate, is it okay for me to turn around and say, no, I'm not giving you my Aadhaar number because there is a matter sub judice in the Supreme Court right now?
Of course. In fact, when you can clearly say under Section 3 of the Aadhaar Act, I cannot be compelled. I am entitled to an Aadhaar number. I cannot be compelled to obtain one.
All right.
And exactly.
So getting an Aadhaar number is not compulsory. And
the
government...
point, I may have to leave.
Okay. Yeah, Sanjay Jha, go ahead.
Faye, since I have to leave, I just want to make one quick point here. You see, this is the problem. Even if you look at the Aadhaar Act, it says that tomorrow if your data, for example, is stolen, or the entire data of an organization or a state is stolen, as happened with Jharkhand, you don't have a right, you can't file a complaint. The FIR will be filed only by the UIDAI. So you have a situation here where the citizen is actually very weak compared to the state. And the second point, which is I think the most critical, that end of day when you don't yet have data protection laws, it is a work in progress. It started during our time. You need a data protection law. A right to privacy is now a fundamental right. Aadhaar makes every individual in this country susceptible to profiling. And if a system, and today nobody in India, nobody in the world can tell you that they have a technology which is so foolproof that it cannot be hacked into. The American prime political parties got hacked into. The Russians have now made hacking and breaking into systems a full-scale industry. I think we remain vulnerable. If the CIA today has access to data which is yet to be verified, but the very fact that it is already being talked about in the WikiLeaks documents is an extremely dangerous development. We can't sit here and say, well, we'll wait for things to happen. Aadhaar needs to wait until there is a greater reliable infrastructure and more important laws that make an individual free to decide whether he wants to submit his data or he doesn't want to. That's the only point I wish to make.
All right, Sanjay Jha, thank you for that point. Pawan Duggal, do you want to, Arvind Gupta, do you want to respond to him?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, just one more point I'd like to add.
I want to make a couple of points that Mr. Jha has. Can I complete this?
Yes,
please?
yes,
because
yes.
I think there is a lot of things that Mr. Jha says, and they are pretty factually very, very wrong. Number one, in Jharkhand, no Aadhaar data was ever compromised. Let me be very, very clear. It was the beneficiaries, their name and their Aadhaar numbers. Aadhaar data by itself is a biometric data, and I want to say it very categorically, that data has never been compromised. Let's be very clear on that. Two, Mr. Jha talks about the right of data protection. I think the Supreme Court also has recognized that, and we have already constituted a committee that we will, the right to privacy, data protection, data security, that whole committee, we have to bring out a law, a procedure, a policy around that. I'm very surprised that Mr. Jha talks about this. The fact being that they did not even have an Aadhaar Act when they collected 60 crore data points from 2009 to 2014. There was no data protection law. And the fact that we brought about an Aadhaar Act and we are now in line to bring about a data protection policy, procedure, guideline, whatever it may be in the future. So I think Mr. Jha's arguments generally fall flat, and this is the case that definitely they are falling flat without any basis.
All right, we have a couple of phone calls that are coming in. Matthew is on the phone line from Bangalore. Matthew, go ahead. We can hear you.
Very good evening. I've got a couple of points you could help me to. So, I've been listening to the conversation very closely.
Yes.
I'm getting some bizarre arguments from the BJP counterpart out there as far as the safety of it is concerned. To the best of my knowledge, no software items data is safe. So if the government can assure that it is 100% safe, then the entire nation is ready to give all data in the interest of the nation. But can the government give a guarantee that in case this data which is collected from us leaks out, the government will step down? If they can give that guarantee, that clearly means that the data is safe. That's the first part of it. The second thing is that when the Supreme Court has given a clear verdict on the right to privacy, I don't understand why this hush up of things. What's like, you can just put up the third, if I'm right, the third law of motion by Newton. No? For every action, there will be an equal and opposite reaction. So what is going to happen is this kind of harassment is done to the general public, invasion of the privacy. Very soon the results will come up for this existing government.
All right, I'll just take one more question, and I know that Mr. Gupta is going to want to respond to both of those. Kalavati is on the phone line from Chennai. Kalavati, go ahead.
Good evening, Faye.
Good evening.
I want to congratulate you on your handling Mirror Now. I find you're one of the best channels in fearless and frank reporting.
Thank you.
I want to say I'm a retired bank official, and I have noticed that when people have problems with digital secrecy or their accounts are compromised, nobody in the higher echelons comes to their rescue. I do not believe that by linking my PAN card to Aadhaar card, my PAN card details are safe or my account details are safe. I was forced to do it before 31st July because the IT department here made it mandatory. And now they're making it mandated to link bank accounts. I fear that the money that I have saved after 38 years of serving in a bank, would be compromised because nobody can protect us when there are leaks and hacking going on. As the gentleman from Bangalore said, will the government put its standing on the line and say they'll step down if anyone's account is hacked? Will they do it? What I don't understand is why the government is threatening us people. We are citizens who have voted them to power. We believe they'll bring a corruption-free government. And we're still waiting to see what they are doing. But they are threatening us by saying our PAN card will be invalidated, our bank account will be invalidated. I ask, how can they invalidate my bank account, which is a contract between me and my banker? Are they trying to subjugate us into silence and acquiescence? And the same thing has been taken forward by the state government here. They have recently come out saying if we harbor pools of water with mosquito larvae, then we are liable for jailing for 6 months. Now I want to ask the state government, from whom have you got this idea of subjugating the people and threatening the people? They have not covered the Buckingham Canal. They have not covered so many stagnant pools of water.
So that's a very good point, Kalavati, and that's something we take up as well. The fact that state governments and city governments have to be responsible for what they have to look after first before blaming the citizens. R.K. Gupta on the phone line from Kanpur. Mr. Gupta, very quickly, go ahead. Yes, Mr. Gupta, go ahead. बोलिए.
हेलो, सब्सिडी के लिए तो ठीक है, मैंडेटरी होना चाहिए आधार, परंतु हम अगर बैंक में अगर देते हैं या दूसरी जगह इसको यूटिलाइज करते हैं तो हमारी प्राइवेसी लीक होती है, क्योंकि बैंक कोई डाटा हमारा सुरक्षित नहीं रखता है और हमारा जो फिंगरप्रिंट्स है उनको स्कैनिंग कहीं भी की जा सकती है. अगर फिंगरप्रिंट की स्कैनिंग की जा सकती है, उसका यूटिलाइजेशन हमारे एटीएम कार्ड में भी यूज किया जा सकता है और हमारे क्या नाम रजिस्ट्री वगैरह में भी यूज किया जा सकता है. इससे आराम से फ्रॉड हो सकता है.
आराम से फ्रॉड हो सकता है. ठीक है, थैंक यू. Let me take all of these questions back to Arvind Gupta with the BJP who will answer those questions. There seems to be a definite concern about data security. And for the rest of our panelists, just gesture to me if you want to come in at any point. A couple of the viewer callers asking if the government will stake its reputation behind security and say you will step down if this database is compromised. Two of our viewers asked that.
Can I? Yeah, so I will give you both a response, which is my knowledge about Aadhaar and in general about computer systems. Number one, I want to always say this with a lot of experience behind me, that every system is designed and needs to be always updated, keeping in mind the new cyber threats, data threats that exist out there. Microsoft or Facebook or whichever never stopped building new and firewalls or data security patches to their software over so many years. So this is an ongoing process. If somebody says their software or their systems are 100% secure, they would be wrong. I would be wrong in saying that. But this is what gives sleepless nights to any technical architect, solution architect who's working on these systems. And it always needs to be improved. There is no denying that fact, that there, as much as technology progress, the people who are trying to get into this technology are also progressing. And you know, we have ransomware attacks these days, and we have all sorts of attacks. We have non-state actors, we have state actors who are attacking our systems all the time. We live in a very, very troubled cyber neighborhood, and we protect our systems very, very diligently. So I want to assure that the government of the day, whichever the government may be, our professionals are constantly at work to ensure the security of the appropriate databases, including Aadhaar. Now, the second point I want to make is very, very important. Everybody is talking about, phone is ringing. Everybody is talking about this whole PAN compulsory. The Supreme Court already ruled in that if the PAN Aadhaar linkage, if you don't have a PAN Aadhaar number, you don't need to link it. But if you do, you need to link it. That thing is already been, I mean, it may be revisited, I don't know that, but as far as the current status concerned, it is that it is required for, if you have a PAN number and Aadhaar number, you need to link both of them. Chal raha hai na? And the last point I want to make is whether bank accounts, why are bank accounts requiring you to put your Aadhaar number? Because, you know, people are talking about corruption and black money and all these issues. I want to just tell you that this is again a crux of the problem. The multiple PAN accounts which have led to so many Benami bank accounts. Only if there is a unique identifier, you will be able to identify which bank account really belongs to which person. The core problem lies with unverified e-KYC. The KYC documents in many, many bank accounts are very, very weak. And multiple driving license numbers, address proofs have been given for the same person across the borders, across states, and that's how they have been gaming the system for years. So putting a clear, unique identifier into those bank accounts is the need of the hour. And the lady who called us from Chennai, I guess, being an ex-banker, should be able to appreciate that. The need of the hour is to ensure our banking system does not become a money laundering system.
That is correct.
And has better KYC, know your customer requirements.
But see, there's one more thing to look beyond. Privacy does not start and stop with the Aadhaar Act. It is a very wide thing. For instance, let's suppose even if your biometrics are compromised, can they be used to threaten you, blackmail you? The answer is no. The Code of Criminal Procedure, the Indian Penal Code, the Evidence Act, the Bankers Books Evidence Act, They contain exhaustive provisions and guidelines as to what can be used in evidence, what cannot. We have the right against self-incrimination enshrined in Article 20 of the Constitution. Let's suppose some agency gets your biometrics and tries to access your email. That will amount to cheating by impersonation. You can file a case on that.
Pawan Duggal, I know you want to respond to that. And I'm a little concerned about how many citizens sort of mistrust security at this point.
Well, all I can say is currently as a nation, we have not done our homework on cybersecurity. So much is the pathetic nature of the legal landscape that India till date does not have a legislation on cybersecurity. This at a time when countries like China are moving miles ahead. They've got dedicated legislations. Different other countries, like whether it's Germany, whether it's now Singapore, or whether it's going to be Australia, they're all working consistently towards constantly mandating parameters for protecting and preserving cybersecurity. In this ecosystem that we are living in, when there is no cybersecurity law, when we don't know how far Aadhaar is compliant with the Information Technology Act 2000 and rules and regulations made thereunder, in a time when the Aadhaar Act has itself become redundant because of government making it mandatory and the Aadhaar Act being completely at a failure to identify and to address the issues pertaining to the cyber security of the entire Aadhaar ecosystem, I think it's time for us to go slightly slow. And therefore, I believe when this act is so ruthless, so as to even cut off all my hands. In fact, when my biometric data as a citizen in the Aadhaar ecosystem gets misused, I do not even have the right to go ahead and report this to the police. Only the UIDAI, being the guardian angel of Aadhaar, is mandated to, shall I say, register an FIR. But let's look at how many breaches have taken place, how many numbers have been compromised, how much database has been compromised, and how many FIRs have taken place. The mismatch between ground reality versus the FIRs will quickly let us know that it's high time that you'll have to revisit the Aadhaar ecosystem security. You have to amend the Aadhaar Act. You see, we are not debating on the fact that Aadhaar
I just want to point out, Pawan Duggal, Aadhaar numbers of hundreds of thousands of pension beneficiaries were illegally displayed on the government website of Jharkhand in violation of that Aadhaar Act. The lapse occurred due to a programming error on the Women and Child Social Security of the government of Jharkhand's website. Now, this is according to a report from the Business Standard on the 23rd of April 2017. So, on one hand, maybe our systems are not strong enough to hold this information. On the other hand, all of the government officials who are handling this information are not even educated on how important the information is and how they should be keeping it safe. And I'm still concerned, Rifat Jawed, about the 89 Aadhaar cards that we had to invalidate because apparently they were not foolproof. Isn't the entire argument about Aadhaar based on the fact that this is a foolproof unique identification?
Yes, I completely agree. You see, the 81 lakh, Aadhaar cards that had to be cancelled, and I think I was reading somewhere that 1 in every 11, sort of Aadhaar card users have got a duplicate Aadhaar numbers. Look, I mean, you rightly said, you hit the nail on the head when you said that, is the government machinery capable of withholding the sensitive information that you acquire through Aadhaar application? We don't even have a data protection law. I'm just trying to understand. First, my problem is that, I'm still trying to understand what benefit, you would have in terms of by making Aadhaar mandatory for a citizen. And B, what happens to my very sensitive private information in the absence of any data protection law? I'm just trying to draw a parallel with UK. There were debates about making identity card using biometric details compulsory. It was shot down, and rightly so. So what happens there is your private details are shared only with your GP, general physician, or the doctor, because with that, with your GP, you have a lifelong relationship. Here, if you are forcing me to share my data with the bank, with whom I might not have a relationship after 6 months, what happens to my data? The problem with the government is that using the iron stick to make everything do, sort of by force. This is exactly what we faced during demonetization. When you don't think through the decision, you force it upon the citizens, then you have to make 70 odd changes within the span of 50 days. And I'm afraid that's exactly what's going to happen with Aadhaar number. I still don't understand what we could achieve by making PAN card compulsory. We are not able to achieve now, and suddenly we need Aadhaar number. So tomorrow what you need to make it, you need to create some other unique number to to make sure that there is no corruption. I mean, the government has been absolutely confused in narrative.
Right, so, and my question, I'm going to come to Ritesh Bhatia with this. My question is about surveillance. If we have an Aadhaar card, which basically links us all into one database, Mr. Gupta, I see your hand. I'll come to you immediately after Ritesh raises this point. You have my phone records, you have my income tax records, you have my bank records, you have every website that I have visited, every phone call that I have made, every text message that I have sent out. What does that leave us with in terms of surveillance, Ritesh Bhatia?
See, there are, right from day one, I've been telling you, Faye, since I've been coming on the show, that the only and only objective I find this to be of snooping, surveillance. And this is... it's not that just India is doing. I mean, I know it's common in every country, but still they have strong data protection laws. Now, when we are linking... What is the
point of this surveillance? What would the government use it for?
Basically, see, for national security, definitely they would want to use it for. But I don't understand. See, at one point of time, they are also saying this, that if you are not doing anything, then why are you worried? So that means, it is indicating, yes, surveillance is on the
If you're not doing anything wrong, then what do you have to worry about? What do you have to hide?
Yeah, what do you have to worry about? So, this is more like an electronic leash that is being put up on your neck. Everything. Now, what subsidy are you going to get from a telephone operator? Why do I have to link with it? Is he going to give me any subsidy? If yes, okay, I'll think about it. But here, what is the major concern is about my private life. And now, isn't this very contradictory? We are talking about Aadhaar, and here we are talking about the Supreme Court judgment making privacy as a fundamental right. And what is happening to this over here? Here, we are just contradicting this statement. And as Pawan sir rightly said, what is the tearing hurry? Can't we just wait? And in that much time, strengthen our systems. Our systems are not strong. I mean, I completely disagree with it because, see, we are over here talking at the urban level. Go to the rural level where there is no power, there is no electricity, there is no connectivity. People walk miles and miles and they go back because they have not got their ration, because they say there is an error with the sensor, there is an error with the hardware, there is an error with the connectivity. So what's the whole point?
Right.
In fact,
yes,
there is one more point to note. As far as surveillance is concerned, under the Aadhaar Act, there is a concept of a requesting entity, where that government agency which is dispersing some service or subsidy, it can take the Aadhaar details and send a request to the central identity depository to confirm the ID of the recipient. I believe investigative agencies like CBI, etc., IB, they do not fall under the category of requesting entity because they have no government services, etc., to disperse. Secondly, investigative powers are enforced when an FIR is registered under the Code of Criminal Procedure. So, police has to have police can intercept phone calls, whatever, but they have no authority to take Aadhaar data and use it to make a roving inquiry into any random person. No, there has to exist some basic proof evidence of some cognizable offence having been committed. Then use that as a base to start an investigation.
You have to have a warrant.
When we have so many options, we have so many convenient things, then why introduce Aadhaar?
The investigators cannot... See, Aadhaar is only for requesting government services, but an investigating agency cannot use that data to query any random number and then use it to blackmail the others.
And Faye, let's not forget, it was meant for authentication. It was never ever meant for identification.
It was never meant for identification. Bala Subramaniam on the phone line from Chennai. Mr. Subramaniam, go ahead.
Yeah. See, I've been a taxpayer for last 30 years and being a banker.
Yes.
And first time this year, I've been struggling to get my income tax return assessed. Every day I'm getting a mail that it cannot be processed unless your PAN and Aadhaar is linked. I'm not against it. See, the problem, whenever I go for linkage, the problem I face, I want to say, because in this debate, I'm seeing a lot of big things are being discussed. As a layman at the ground level, I say, what are the fundamental issues here? In Aadhaar, my name is spelled as Balasubramanian. In PAN card, the last 15 years, My name is spelled as Bala Subramanian. There's a space in between. Because of this, they said we can't link PAN and Aadhaar. Go and get the Aadhaar change. That's what the NSDL says. When I go to UIDA, the corporation office, they say, no, you go and get your PAN card changed. I don't know which one I should change. With after great difficulty, after 3 months of struggle, standing in the queue for 7 hours, I could get the name linked between Bala and the space Subramania, the space I brought closer. Then they say, there is a mismatch with your father's name now in Aadhaar. In father's name, Venkateswar, and there is a H in between. I don't know how the H came also. Now they are telling remove that H and come. And for removing that H, they are asking me for a proof. My father is 91 years old. I don't know where I'm going to get a link. I don't know how that H came in the first place. Right. Now I am struggling to get that H removed for last 3 months. Any change request you give to UIDAI, it takes 3 months to get it changed. Sometimes after 3 months you come to know that has not happened. When I go to the customer care, they say, so what? You go and give another application, they will do it. So that means another 7 hours of queue and then wait for another 3 months. Now, I have given a request for changing my mobile number.
Right.
3 months.
In fact, Mr. Balasubramanian, most South Indians are facing troubles right now with their initials and with their names. Vivek also from Mumbai. Vivek, this is my last question. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is that why are the politicians not keen about linking Aadhaar card to the voter ID? Because then all kind of spurious voting would stop. Why not experiment in that way?
Right. Kabir from Chennai, go ahead. Very quickly, Kabir.
Yes, ma'am. This is Kabir from Chennai. I am a student and I have a similar thought as previous caller said. There is lot of technical difficulties with the government officials and officers already in India. If I go to some offices and I have to get cleared of a document or anything, it takes hardly 3 months or 6 months, or it even took 2 to 3 years for me to apply a passport and get it. And also for Aadhaar card, I had to wait for 3.5 years so that I get my turn to apply for it. And if they are going to ask me to link my mobile number with the Aadhaar card, already there are proof that phone is being tapped and WhatsApp text being tapped and they are being jailed for going against some party or any people. In such cases, if I'm just going to link Aadhaar card with all kind of things, I will just become a slave under some governance or the government. If I'm just going to ask if the government, which is in power, just gets down and other party is going to come to the power.
All right. Okay, I understand the point you're making. We've run out of time on this conversation, but we'll continue to have these conversations over the next few weeks because we're keeping a very close eye on how this plays out. A couple of things that have popped up. While the Supreme Court is hearing, there's a 5-judge bench hearing the relationship right now between mandatory Aadhaar and our newfound fundamental right to privacy. The government should ideally wait. In the meantime, it's legally okay for you and I to refuse to either get an Aadhaar card or compulsorily hand it over while the matter is sub judice. But there are bigger questions to ask. If this is a foolproof system, as the government would have us believe, why were there 81 Aadhaar numbers that were invalidated because they were flawed? Why is it that various state governments have accidentally or for other reasons leaked Aadhaar information onto their websites? Can we fully assure the citizens of India that this data is safe? And if we can, and the Aadhaar and the Supreme Court's decision on the fundamental right to privacy talks about restrictions for government services, then those of the citizens and those of us who do not want subsidized LPG or subsidized kerosene or any other form of subsidized government service, can we choose not to get an Aadhaar card altogether? All of these questions are likely to be answered by the Supreme Court 5-judge bench, which then brings us to our last question. Why won't the government just wait? What is the staring hurry to make the Aadhaar mandatory even before the Supreme Court has sounded its decision? We're going to keep a close eye on this entire story for you here on Mirror Now. We consider this a very, very important thing because it involves all of our data, all of our personal details. Thanks for watching.